if I get into the lexicon of Final Fantasy VII lore, you're gonna be like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? So, like, this guy, he goes to school, he's in poverty, he starts doing okay, and then his life starts falling apart, and he can't figure out why, because everything was just kind of starting to look up. And he figures out somebody doesn't like him. He can't figure out who. You know, he's a pretty nice guy. He keeps his head down and stuff. And so he figures out eventually there's like this TV that doesn't like him. And he goes, well, why don't you like me? And the guy literally shuns him. Like, you can't speak to me. And he can't figure out what's going on. So he ignores the guy, right? Turns out it's one of his classmates that likes to cross-dress, right? And he figures out this guy is so literally certifiably insane that he gets to attack people and you can't do anything about it because he was in the NA. Here's the problem. This guy is in the NA too, and he's still not being recognized because he was off res, because he was supposed to, because this, that, and the other. It's the way it works sometimes. Okay? And this guy literally got to fucking start terrorizing him using their network against him. He said, I must have something this guy wants or something. So he starts doing a little fact checking, calls a few grandmas, and he says, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. And he calls the grandmas back and says, don't accept any more calls from me for about 3 or 4 years until I've got resituated and you know what all of my new information is first. I'll make sure you find out first, right? You know, and she goes, okay. So here's the thing. She gets like 24 more phone calls in the next 6 to 8 weeks or something, and they're all him. And she knew he knew something was going on. And so he calls back 3 or 4 years, like, hey, Gran, how's it going? And it's not his fucking grandma. Right? So he starts tripping. He's like, okay, this guy's fucking me up bad. He's like, now I'm not going to be me no matter what. So he does some looking around. He figures out his grandma's somewhere new and she can't remember anything. He goes, okay, I got to figure this one out first. So what he does is he comes up with this fact-finding mission, how to, and then he decides not to. He goes, I know what to do. I'll just take her in. And they'll know her and me. He says, but if not, man, we're going to be in trouble. But nobody's going to put us out on the street, will they? So he does this, and it's immediately the worst decision he's ever made, is trying to take care of this old woman. Nobody likes him all of a sudden, and he figures something out. They're saying something about me, and I don't know about it, right? So what he does is he goes over to his one friend's house that he's always known, that he only sees kind of like in a secret way. And he goes, hey man, I have this problem. And this guy instantly knows what he's talking about. He goes, okay, I know what's the problem. We have a group for people like this. He says, it's like called Avalanche. And I go, okay. So he joins Avalanche. And the next thing you know, he's in a full facade uniform. And he goes, something is going on here. I've joined a cult and I don't realize it. And he's not taking care of his grandma anymore. He realized his memory got wiped at some point in time and he became like their puppet droid. And he goes, this is King Tut? What's going on here? So what he does now is he starts moving around the circle in a very awkward, sort of backwards kind of way. And they immediately notice he's not acting normal. He goes, I've been having these headaches. And they go, okay, oh, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. So eventually they figure out he went through it backwards or something. They're like, fuck, what do we do now? We've had this happen before and they usually go crazy. He's keeping it together, but he says he's having headaches. What if he flips out? So they stop taking him on these important missions where they basically just override computers and stuff. So eventually, he just drops out of it completely and they don't really notice because they didn't want him around. Well, here's the thing. He had all of their information and he starts spreading this group around in the most interesting way he can think of. And he realizes it's not good enough. He needs to go back and stop himself. And then he thinks about it. He says, why did I think of that? What do I see here that makes me go backwards? And he realized he'd been listening to this song on repeat for like a week, but it must have been like a year because he has no other songs in his playlist library at this point in time, and he can't figure it out. He goes, something's going on with my brain. He remembers the way. Oh yeah, the way. So he goes to see someone who knows about the way, and he says, can you, something's so weird with me, I can't tell what's going on. He's like, yeah, I can see it, you got like 20 icons over your head, what the fuck is going on with you? He's like, I don't know what to do. And he goes, okay, fine, come here. He brings this guy over to here, and he goes, okay, you were with Avalanche? He's like, yeah, they're bad. He's like, you thought they were good? He's like, yeah, I had been having these headaches and all sorts of stuff. He's like, oh, you're the one with the headaches. They've been trying to figure out what happened to you. He's like, yeah, I just been walking around trying to figure out what's happened. He's like, what happened to your grandma? He's like, I can't remember. He's like, I remember thinking about it one time years ago, and I haven't thought about it since. I don't know what happened to her. He's like, well, I have her. She's in the back room. Like, I hope to God it's her. So he goes back there, and it is her. And she's like, where are you? He fixed my brain. And he goes, I hope he can fix mine. He's like, I don't know about you. You did the one thing I don't know how to undo yet. He goes, okay, well, I'll figure it out. So he's like, I'll go. Do you need money for grades? He's like, no, I got it. He leaves, right? Eventually he runs into this guy named Mikolosing Kaparakor or something. Nobody can really say his name very good. It's like Nickelback, but it's T or something. So he sees this guy, and he goes, well, what do you do? He's like, I'm with Genova, Genova. It's not spelled, it's an anagram. He's like, okay, how does it go? He's like, it's all in pneumatical pi, and all of them are 2, and they're different. He goes, oh yeah? He's like, it's quosten, tuition, quacting, quality, qualitas, the quint, and security, cavality, somatica. He's like, that's just J, but it's H, and it's not H either. It's H in J with a J inside of H in it. He goes, okay, I see it. He's like, okay, you're pretty good, They're usually not good. What's E? He goes, he's like, too slow. I'm not going to tell you now. You have to get it on your own. He's like, okay, we have ciphers, and we put out these ciphers. If you can figure out what the cipher is, you get to the target, you take care of it, you get paid. He's like, okay. He's like, yeah, I know it's sort of like a game, but sometimes we ask you to, do a guy in or, knife an old lady. So, I mean, honestly, you know what you're getting into, so you don't see it. He's like, okay, you don't see it? No. He's like, no matter what, you never see our ciphers, no matter what. He goes, okay, fine. I see it. He's like, okay, it's Genova, but it's not. It's an anagram. He goes, okay. So eventually he gets the mail from Genova. Genova tells him to go see this guy named Sephiroth. Sephiroth happens to be the exact TV he saw in school, and they want him done up. And he goes, this is too easy. I feel like I'm being set up. But there's no way he knows who these guys were. They were on the other side of the fucking goddamn country, practically. He's like, this is unbelievably well suited to me. He does the one thing he thinks that he wouldn't do in this situation. He goes and talks to the guy for a while and asks him about things. He's not shunning him now. He can't figure out why he's not shunning him now. He goes, they're starting to get to you. He goes, yeah, I thought I was in control, but no, I'm not. He's like, okay, I get it. And that's basically how the book starts. There's a book to it, but most people don't know about it. It's unreleased, basically. A father's son's minstrel's daughter's bacon ales, sevens or something. It's weird. It's got the weirdest name. It's in the strange Japanese dialect or something, like chomographer or something. And so what happens next is they kind of join up, but they don't really join. They realize that they're not on the same side. Somehow this guy has earned some renown, and nobody can figure out how. And he can't really figure out how people think he's like a guy now. But somebody said something about him to somebody, and now he's like a guy they see. He's like, what does this even mean? So he figures out he's been marked in some way. And this is something they warn you about in like popular culture music. You have been marked. So he realizes it's not a good mark no matter what. And he's trying to figure out how he's been marked and who he's been marked by. And he realizes it's not important. What's important is that he becomes even more secretive. He's like, this is a trick. When you become secretive, you become reclusive. When you're reclusive, you have less people around. And when you have less people around, they can see you as standing alone. If you're standing alone, this means a lot to law enforcement. And they said, now they can get you through law enforcement means. He goes, okay, so I'm going to have to keep this strict detail to my life. So he outlines his life in this new way. So it's like a game of Candyland, sort of. You understand? He just rolls the dice, basically, and this is how he does it. And he goes, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. So this goes on for a while, and eventually gets in trouble with the law after all. And he goes, "Well, hey, I figured out I got marked by somebody. Do you have any idea how any of this works?" He's like, "No, that's normal for like mafia and stuff. Mafia." He's like, "No, that's what's bugging me. I don't know anybody. I knew one group once, and they were kind of weird, and people told me to stop going back. And I think maybe it's them, but I don't think they do that to people." He says, "Well, that's weird." He's like, "It's not avalanches." I said, "How did you know?" He's like, "That's the only one we've been looking at lately." He's like, "Okay, if Avalanche marked you, I'll figure it out. If they didn't mark you, it's one of their allies." He's like, "What's an ally to them? They were just such a small group." He says, "Yeah, that's sort of the issue. They are not such a small group." He's like, "Okay, can you give me more information?" He's like, "No, I can't. This is as far as I don't want to talk to you at all." He's like, "Okay, well, you said something." He's like, "Yeah, I'll tell you if I figure out how you've been marked, but I think you're on your own here, kid. This is pretty normal stuff to have been marked by somebody at some point in your life." He goes, "Okay, well, I'm not in high school, He's like, "Yeah, I get it." So he goes through this fucking coming of age sort of a thing, and basically he becomes a male kind of a prostitute. Nobody can explain this for the life of them. It's everybody's most embarrassing detail of all time. For some reason, because everything seemed very satisfactory and good up until this point. He's in the slum, he's in the gutter, he's sleeping in a dugout tube, and he goes, "Where am I?" He realizes his brain's been fucked with. And he goes, "They have some way to control me now, I'm not even me." So he no longer has his male genitalia and he can't figure it out. He goes, what did I go through? So he goes around, he tries to find that guy from the way. The guy from the way won't see him. He's like, "Well, I want to change back." He's like, "Please, I don't know what's going on with me anymore." He's like, "You are the same way." He's like, "What's happening with you?" Like, "I don't know what's happening with me anymore. It's like I have these blackouts and now I'm not who I am before." He said, "Okay, well, I believe you because this is pretty weird." So he goes up to the way and has him restored to like an earlier date, but now he looks like he's 17 because of the way the guy did it. He goes, "Well, now I look like I'm a kid. No one will believe I'm like 28, 23 or whatever." He's like, "I can't help you here. This is the best I can do. It's not my job. I don't have the doc on call anymore. There's no doc right now." He goes, "Fuck. Well, I'll take it. At least I have a Wii now." He's like, "Yeah, you have a Wii now. Just wait till they find you. If what I've been hearing about this other guy is true, they're gonna find you now." He's like, "Okay. Well, I got marked and I still don't know by whom." He's like, "Okay, get out of here. I ain't taking care of your grand no more either. You take her out of here right now." So he does. He gets a job in a factory. He takes care of her. Everything's fine for a while until someone comes sniffing around him. He's like, "You ain't the guy in your ID." He's like, "Yeah, I know. It's like I had," he tells him this weird story, and he goes, "Well, you had a S change, and then someone changed you back on the way to like 17, and that's the best you could get?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Wow, that's fucking crazy. I've never heard a story like that." He's like, "The way." He's like, "I can't believe I haven't heard that since I was a child." So he's talking to like this federal agent, right? And this guy's just learning about the way. He's like, "It's like brand new to me. I never even knew. I can't believe it's in the Bible and stuff." So they become like sort of like fast friends, but they're not really like close friends. And they start taking care of their grandma, provocatively, like on and off or whatever. Eventually, he figures out the guy's trying to figure out how to see what his grandma sees. His grandma knows like this ancient Chinese fucking Japanese language, chomographer. And this is like the basis of the crisis core sort of a thing. Is now this guy is trying to wiggle his way into their world. And he goes, "What the fuck is going on in the U.S.? He's like, "I don't even know if I should be here. I'm pretty sure I should be in northern Japan in the mountains, fucking around with a stick and walking a fucking hiking group through a field or something. Why the fuck am I here?" And he realizes he can't remember his childhood at all anymore. He goes, "Okay, someone is trying to get rid of me. I thought it was that one. So I should have swung at that one, but I never did it. Because I can keep my temper." That's what it's starting to be, is they know I can keep my temper or something, so they can use this against me as a double-bladed sword in some way. That's really weird. They're going against passive resistance now. I guess that's not weird. That sounds like something early Kyler would do, but the scale has to be massive to be able to do this. So he's thinking all these big thoughts, right? He's like, "I know who would know about this. I'll call Penny. Penny knows about this. Now, he knew Penny from some youth group, and Penny is like Inspector Gadget's daughter. So he contacts Penny, and Penny has these two kids, and they're both really sick from being fucking whatever, half-bloods. And he says, wow, this is crazy. All of a sudden, all the stuff, bad stuff that's happened to him literally ceases. He figures out there's some sort of a connection here. He walked into what they were, and they don't want him to see them anymore. Do you understand? They figured out they might cross a wire. He goes, these are who? These are who? I finally get it now. They're who? I can't see who. That's what I can't see. They can see me. I can't see who. So he's trying to figure out how this all works. And while he's reading up on these ancient chomographer books. He's a decade into this weird life experience now, okay? Somebody from his ancient past calls his ass. He's like, how are you? How you doing? He's like, oh man, do I have a story to tell? So he basically talks to this guy on the phone for like 16 hours. And it's like the story I'm telling now, but it's far more complete. The guy's like, wow, I'm going to write it down. He's like, I'm glad I record my calls. He's like, okay, good. Thank you for listening. And he started crying throughout it and stuff. He was fucked up. He goes, okay, good. Well, I have to go to work now, and I might be late, but I'm going to tell him I called an old friend. He started crying, so here we are. I'll bye. I got to catch my train. He's like, okay, bye. Guy literally ran out the door to catch his train. It became this game series, sort of. So I guess it was worth it. Anyways, there's more. There's more. You understand? There's a lot more to it than what I've told you. I just tried to run through it real fast. And that's kind of Genova. That's what Genova was. I guess I went over that part. But Genova comes up again. Comes up about 3 more times in this tale. But I won't ruin it for you. I probably already ruined it for you.